Go. Hey, everybody, welcome to the ReCoop. I'm Cooper Daniels, and I'm a guy that knows a little about a lot. And today we're talking about Digibyte, but I'm not doing it alone. I'm here with Laura, aka LT Loves Digi on Twitter. And thank you for joining us, Laura.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Well,
me.
We know you're a little, you've got a couple personalities going on in there. So,
true. Yeah, there's a whole
lot
hello,
everybody. Hello, everybody.
Hi. Yeah. So, look, I've started doing more interviews on the ReCoop, and it occurred to me that I have never done an interview that relates to the Digibyte community. And I thought, well, I think now is the time. I think there's a lot going on, and you are a very calming, practical, that's not the right word. You're a very calming,
I'm very zen.
I feel, you even told me you meditated before we got on.
Yes, so I'm very zen of Digibyte.
Yeah, and I am so not zen. I'm all over the place. And so we're going to be the perfect match here. And I'm excited to talk to you. Thank you for coming. And so in case somebody out there doesn't know who you are, and why don't you tell them? Why don't you tell them about yourself a little bit? Yeah.
So I started volunteering with the Digibyte blockchain about 3.5 years ago. I was a college math professor and started getting interested in the blockchain space as it related to my STEM students. Mm-hmm. So I, bit the bullet and joined Telegram like a psycho. And but I was researching different projects, and I was looking for very specific solutions for my interests, and that was an alternate to fiat currencies and better security for digital logins. And so that kind of brought me to Digibyte. I met the community, and then the Digibyte Awareness Team had just formed, and I was hosting meetups in Wilmington, where I was from, and that was before Digibyte. Like, I was just curious about the space, and so I was trying to host community meetups. And so when I told them that, they were like, well, can you join the awareness team as like kind of a meetup, volunteer outreach? Because I was a teacher and I was kind of, good with like emotional IQ for a global community. And I was a girl. It doesn't hurt when in the sausage factory. So I had a lot of things that like kind of that were qualities that could be utilized. So I joined the Digibyte Awareness Team, and I was a part of that for just a little over 3 years. So I just got to know the community, know the people who were doing different things in the community, and trying to support what they were working on. And it's an evolution. It's a ever-growing ecosystem. So everything kind of constantly changing, but that's been my role. And I'm always, I'm in different groups, different channels, and trying to help where I can.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when there was a little bit of a dust up about the logo. There was a few months ago, there was a bit of a new logo, and I think everyone was kind of like, I don't know about that. I don't know. And but there were also people being like, oh, we need something fresh. There was definitely two sides of it. It clearly, I think we've seen it shake out to let's leave it alone is the winning side of this. But during the heat of all this, it was I saw a live stream you guys did, and how you handled yourself during all that. It was just so well. It was just a very like both sides were respected, and we need to respect both sides, and let's not jump to anything and be more divisive than we need to be. And I just thought, oh, well, this would be I think we could have a good conversation about Digibyte.
Well, thank you for saying that. I'm glad that came across, because I do feel like that with a global community that is really, I mean, people are drawn to this project because they're looking for a common solution, to a common problem. But beyond that common problem, everything else is different. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so there's going to be constantly, battles being forged against like their different ideas, even though we all know we want the same currency. We want our own currency. We want a currency that's not centrally controlled.
Yeah.
But all the little nuances, the logo and then this and then that, like there's going to be room for battle, and how we handle those disagreements is going to be like kind of the determiner of whether we have our own alternate currencies.
Well, and absolutely. And you said it when you first, just a few seconds ago about what brought you to Digibyte. I mean, you were looking for two things that Digibyte does exceptionally well. So you clearly found it with an alternative to fiat and something that solves, login and passwords and all of that. Like Digi ID and Digibyte do both of those things impeccably. I mean, are you seeing that? Do you still think that? Are you still?
Oh, I 100% still think that. Now, I will say, to use Digi ID requires a certain level of self-responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think the like arguments against it are real, because they're like, but if I forget my password, then they can't just email it to me for like a relink. I'm like, yep, you're right. So I don't think that Digi ID should be like an option where it's like, that's the only option. You can only log in with Digi ID. I think Digi ID is one of those things where it's like, if you choose to take the responsibility of self-sovereignty, you can log in with Digi ID, which means that you captured your 24, words, you secured them in a way that, can't be corrupted or lost. And you choose to take the responsibility that if it's lost, it's lost.
Well, and I had an acquaintance reach out to me today being like, oh my God. He's like, my Coinbase wallet, I can't get into it. I changed phones and lost my, and I'm like, yeah, there's really nothing you can do. I mean, part of this, and everybody
self-responsibility.
And that's it. It's like everyone says, be your own bank. Well, yeah, okay. But
that comes with something.
Yeah. You're not your own. I mean, there's the bank, and they have armor, they have armed guards, they have lots of things protecting that. And, you have to at least figure out where to hide your words and know where to get them.
Well, the question is, if you're like, all I have to do is have you email me a link to reset my password. If someone compromises my email, then they can email a link to reset my password. So I guess it's just one of those things where everybody has to like choose their level of risk versus reward. And for some people, they just say, you know what, I'd rather not have my information on a centralized server. And if I lose my 24 seed phrases, then that's on me. And that's a self-responsibility that people have to say, okay, that's what I chose to do. And then some people are like, no, that's like way too much responsibility. Then you can go ahead and give your information to a centralized server that can be compromised in a different way, and you take that risk. And that's totally fine. And for me, personally, there's no judgment there. Everybody has to choose their own risk versus reward model. But I will say for myself, I personally would not like to have my information on a centralized server. That's my choice. And I would like for my choice to be validated and accepted by the people that they choose to work with, whether it's a business or whatever website that requires a login.
Well, yeah, and any business can incorporate Digi ID for free, and they can have all of their capital F. Yeah,
I'm doing it wrong, Alpha.
There you go. But yeah, they can incorporate for free, and they can have their existing systems working alongside it. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's not like you have to only do this thing. Like you could do this thing or this thing. I like the idea of a choice. This whole idea that we can't have a choice, that just doesn't resonate with me.
Yeah, for sure. And then on the flip side of that, with Digi ID, they do need to integrate it. It can't just, and then there's other technology that is used, Digibyte technology, right? And that would be more along the side of Antum ID, right?
Well,
and now,
so let's talk about this let's talk about this for a minute. Because honestly, I don't know the inner workings of Antum ID. I really don't. Okay. But I do know that there is a free WordPress plugin for Digi ID, and WordPress is like what 99% of the sites are using is WordPress.
Right.
There's a plugin that is free for you to use. It doesn't have to be the only login option for your customers or the people who are needing a login, but it can be one of them.
Right.
And so, there is no cost involved for you to let people choose that option.
Got it.
It's
right. But you still have to opt in.
You have to opt in. Yeah. You have to
the website.
Yeah.
So that I guess my point is that step seems to be a barrier for a lot of people, right?
Which I don't understand. If you have a basic website,
mm-hmm.
If you have just like a WordPress website, anybody should be able to do that pretty easily. I mean, that is the whole point of a plugin, is to make it easy to be like, yep, that's the feature I want to use there. Right. So if you choose not to use it, I don't understand, because you're not really putting yourself at risk. And anybody who's choosing to use that as an option is saying, Laura Taylor, has decided that I don't want my information on a centralized server that can be compromised. Right. That's an option I'm choosing to take.
Yeah.
For myself. Like Change Angel has the different options of how you want to log in. Right. I choose to log in with Digi ID, and I really like it. It feels like magic. It feels free. Yeah. It uses the same cryptography as hardware wallets. It has
so good.
So cool. Like crazy level of security. So I like having the option. I could always choose to log in with my email and password like I did in 1974 or whatever. People can choose their level, and that's what I like. Like, I'm not saying everybody should do this thing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that as we progress, everybody should have the choice at the point in which they want to progress. Some people want that responsibility and some people don't. And I'm not judgmental on that, because everybody has their own level of risk versus reward.
Right. So we talked about it. So the alternative to fiat, the Digi ID, secure login. Now, there has, obviously there's a whole asset layer to Digibyte, and we have an upgrade coming, DigiassetX. And so what are you thinking about, DigiAssets, DigiassetX, where Digibyte stands right now with, being an NFT platform, with being able to do all of smart contracts and all of these things?
It's a good question. I will say right now, I'm not an NFT expert by any means, but I have friends who are constantly, trying to build and work in that space, and that it hit some major roadblocks with DigiAssets in the traditional form. I think DigiAssets in the traditional form, has some fundamental failures. First of all, the server is centralized. It's not a decentralized, it's not a decentralized server situation. So, if that server goes down, everybody who's built those assets are, kind of effed, So, I mean, it hasn't gone down, but that's always we always got to look what are the points of failure? And that's a point of failure. Right. And that's why I always say, Mike Aldi's been doing a ton of assets. He was one of the first I knew to experiment with it. Mm-hmm. But, one of the questions that I had with him was okay, well, you have links to a website. If that website goes down, what happens to the asset that's linked to those websites? How many layers deep does that go? And, these are fundamental good questions, because when you're talking about linking metadata, there's different layers of metadata, and so that's where, DigiassetX came in, because they saw this lacking of decentralization. They saw some different flaws that they thought they can fix, and it's taken them a lot longer than they thought. So they had talked about it for a long time, but they're now in beta testing, and people are issuing assets on their platform. But the thing that's different about them is their IPFS. So that's more decentralized. So it's not a single server that holds all of them. It's a decentralized server for anybody who has a node that's running that. So very similar to Ravencoin. And Ravencoins, if you've been following Ravencoins, their assets, they're doing great. with the way they're doing it. So it's very similar to that, where it's like it's a decentralized asset where anybody can run a node. And so that's not all just like this, like dependent on a single server. So I'm excited for that. Again, it's not up and running. They don't have their own exchange open yet. They're still trying to get wallets, and I know they're talking with Koinami and
this is DigiassetX or Ravencoin?
DigiassetX.
Right.
And so they're talking with other people who are already fans of Digibyte to get those assets, because you need a wallet, And so we've got a lot of people working in that realm, and I think that DigiassetX is making some really good ground, and the fact that they're in beta is a strong I don't really actually promote or tweet about stuff that I think is in development. Right. I will say something when I feel like it's actually done, and I feel like these guys are pretty close to being to the point where I'm like, yes.
Yeah. It feels, from the little that I know, it feels close. That's for sure.
It feels very close, because I think they've been, and I will say Matthew has been working really diligently for a long time, trying to get this off the ground. So hats off to that entire team, Matthew, Divyam. These are developers who they've worked against the grain to try and get this as a really good layer on top of Digibyte. And I think and I think with our fees, with our speed, with our community, I think it is a really good and powerful layer that will be ready when it's ready. But I I don't promote stuff until I feel like, everybody's using it. Like it's 100% ready, because until it's ready, it's just not, we just don't know what issues are going to come across, but they've been through a lot, and they're working diligently, and they're not stopping. So I think they're close.
So you mentioned DigiAssets, the current state of it, it's centralized, right? And and so that brings me to just a more general question. Like, let's talk about this. Let's talk about decentralization, because I feel like, maybe I'll be explaining to my wife like why decentralization is important, and then I just kind of see her eyes glaze over, and she's like, okay, this sounds like you're talking like crypto talk, and is it really important? And obviously we're in a space where it is important, but it varies. There's a varying degree of decentralization on all these projects. And some of them are, if you look at something like Solana, like we're just learning more and more. Centralized that thing.
Just don't even.
You're like, you almost threw up, and it just felt like you kind of like, but there are certain levels of decentralization, but when it comes to Bitcoin, people have always kind of said, all the mining in China, and there was some sense, but that's obviously changed. And but you have the Bitcoins and you have Digibyte. There's not a lot of truly decentralized projects out there, and Digibyte is definitely one of them. One of my favorite things, I watched Jared, he did a 5-minute video recently, and I enjoyed watching it, and I like hearing it come from him. But one of the, I feel like, most compelling things that I hear about Digibyte is that this guy created it. He's not a CEO. He owns a fraction of 1% of the Digibyte out there. He isn't, he mined it or bought it himself. So there isn't this it seems like every project has this big account of
shadow people.
Yeah. And then they can do whatever. Now, obviously there's whales in Digibyte, there are whales everywhere. There's huge holders that have accumulated it, however they've accumulated it. But anyways, I find it really compelling. And so what is important about decentralization to you?
Well, it's a fantastic question. And I think that we have to realize there's different parts of this industry that we have to look at kind of individually and simultaneously. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about decentralization, everyone's like, oh, crypto is decentralized. Well, in order to be a successful crypto project, you have to be actually listed on centralized exchanges. And those centralized exchanges choose who they're going to list it. And then how they make those decisions It's very interesting
Mhm.
because everybody makes them differently. I mean, we're
Yeah.
not on Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, or Binance US yet.
No.
But
Those are all the ones that people use.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and my question is, well, why is that? You
Mhm.
know, like, why not? Like, we're definitely not a security. We
No.
never had an ICO. I mean, there was a very small percent of a pre-mine to get it, you know, and I don't like the word pre-mine, preprint.
Yeah.
You know, let's start calling some, a spade a spade. It's a
Yeah.
preprint to get stuff going.
Yeah. I mean,
You know, which
that's
is fair. Like, but it was
Yeah.
a very small fraction of percent to make that
Mhm.
happen. And, you know, I get that. Like, that doesn't even like bother me. So we had a small preprint to get us going, but we're definitely not a security because we don't have this large, we don't have this large treasury. You
No.
know, we didn't have this weird ICO situation. I mean, again, one of the reasons why I was drawn to this project, it's never really, it's not an insider. It wasn't wash traded to make the price go up. It didn't have all these, kind of inside deals.
Is that wash
make it
trading?
happen.
Is that wash trading comment? Is that in reference to Litecoin?
It's in reference to all of them, dude.
Yeah. But
It's in
wasn't
reference
there
to all of them.
what happened with Litecoin? I'm not 100% on this, but there was a bit of a scandal when they got listed on Coinbase, right?
Well, there was I don't know if it was the SEC or the CFTC that fined them because an employee of Coinbase wash traded Litecoin from anywhere from like 3% to 99% of their volume for the time that they were there. So, this is the kind of stuff that just gets sloughed over, but to me is very important because Digibyte has been the red-headed stepsister. No offense, Michelle. I love redheads. But it's been the redhead stepsister of a lot of the coins because it is outside of that. Like, there's been no wash trading in that way. There's been no, nobody likes Jared. None of these centralized exchanges like Jared. Like, Jared has his flaws and his good parts, but the fact that he's been so outspoken about the corruption actually in some ways has served us, in some ways has, hurt us as a project. But, you got to take the good with the bad. And, no one can say that someone's given us a free pass. That's for sure.
No.
So
there's been no free pass.
There's been no free pass. So whatever we get from real stuff, from either community.
Nobody's paying Coinbase a bounty of Digibyte to be listed. And it seems to be out there as a practice that is very normal.
Very normal. And right. in fact, you'll see that they advertise it. They say it's the MN. This is the MN fund. This is the market making fund. And we need to start asking, what does that mean? What does market making mean? Right. What does that mean? Is that real? Like, what is market making?
Yeah.
Like, we have to start asking. I mean, I know this I hear it all the time. People are like, oh, that's in the legacy system too, Laura, blah, 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 blah. I get it. But I thought we're supposed to be better.
Yeah.
I thought we're supposed to be more organic and more real.
And so it's almost like Digibyte needs to become inevitable before these exchanges are going to do it, like Bitcoin did. I mean, obviously they didn't get any Bitcoin for listing Bitcoin.
Exactly.
Is that not obvious? Yeah.
Thank you. That is my point. And I've been on exchange calls and people will say, well, what are you guys willing to give for market making? We're like, nothing. And they're like, what? Nothing? Yeah. I'm like, well, we're a derivative of Bitcoin. We're decentralized. We never had an ICO. We don't have a treasury. Why should we pay you? Bitcoin didn't pay you. And they're like, well, Bitcoin's Bitcoin. I'm like, well, Digibyte's Digibyte. You've got to look, you've got to be able to differentiate between a truly decentralized organization, a truly decentralized project, and one that has pre-mined millions of dollars. They can throw you millions of dollars to list it. Those are apples and freaking oranges. We are the bad news bears of the blockchain, and we win in the end.
There you go. I like that. I like that story. I like that movie. But okay, look, there are a few projects. So there's so many projects, and there's going to be winners and losers. There's going to be, I think it's inevitable. There's going to be a cliff, and a lot of these projects are going to fall off the cliff, and we'll never see them again. I mean, we are really kind of all very excited right now. The crypto space is very excited, and we're all running around, bumping into each other, trying to find money. We're searching under couches. We're all finding money everywhere. But I do believe that this hysteria will calm down, and there's going to be more than one project that succeeds. Obviously, it's not going to just be Bitcoin. It's not going to just be Ethereum. It's not going to be those. There's going to be other alternatives. And look, there is only a few Bitcoin-like projects out there, really, right? That are truly decentralized and have been around for a while. And Digibyte is certainly one of those. I mean, I think a Litecoin comes to mind, or you mentioned Ravencoin. That's a newer one, but like
it's 3 years old. So it's not
3 years old.
It's not brand new.
No, not brand new.
They paid their dues.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's just, I guess, what do you see? I guess my point is that obviously I believe Digibyte's going to last and it's going to win. And I've transacted in Digibyte before, and how cheap it is and fast it is incredible. Yeah. And look, DigiassetX is coming, and that's fantastic. And we'll see all of these extra things, but just what it does well right now, like at the beginning of this conversation, just what it does right now is so necessary. And it's this cybersecurity coin, this security and money, right? Like, simple. I don't know that you need to make a bigger case than that. I mean, I
don't either. I honestly, I don't either. I see the value in NFTs. I see the value in assets. Yeah. I see the value there. But, where we are right now at this moment, those two things
are important.
They're important, and they're pretty good case.
Yeah. And it does it well. It
does it very well. And when we say like which one's going to win, like the definition of win becomes like one of those things where it's like, what does win mean? It's kind of like, what does money mean? Like it becomes a very like existential kind of concept of like, what does it mean to win? It means that you have an option that's alternative to the narrative. You have an option that's alternative to a system that you are starting to distrust.
Yeah.
You're starting to see that, what? Someone can turn off your money.
Yeah.
So, we're seeing it. Someone can attach your money and your ability to spend and your ability to live based on your social credit score. These
this
things,
is like, are you talking about China? Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about a lot of places, babe. Yeah. This is actually happening right now. Yeah. And so for us to start working on ecosystems, and I don't think Digibyte's the only ecosystem. Like I said, I've got friends with other projects, and I applaud their efforts. I don't have to tear them down, and I don't even care what blockchain they're working on.
Yeah.
But their efforts are the same, where they're like, we don't want our money turned off because we don't do what somebody else above us tells us we have to do. We've already got that with the Patriot Act. I mean, they can turn my money off like that. If they choose to tell me I'm a terrorist, guess what? My banking's going to stop.
Yeah.
That's going to get broader, and so we have to have have some alternative systems, because the definition of who becomes a terrorist, who becomes anti the narrative, if you choose to turn off their money, guess what? It is off. They can't buy groceries. They can't buy gas.
Yeah.
And this is important. Like, I know everyone's like, this isn't, this NFT is mooning and this is mooning. I don't give a shit. I want to make sure that, honest people can still live.
Yeah.
they can,
Well,
they
that's for
can
sure.
have other, they can have other ecosystems in which they can participate in,
yeah.
because somebody else is deciding whether or not they can actually live, and that is a problem.
Yeah, well, and that is a major problem. That's the major issue. Now, look, I can get behind NFTs and the fact that
Sure.
artists and artists are having access to, you know, a platform and they're being
Absolutely.
enabled. I mean, this is all so fantastic. But
I love it.
what I hear from you is that there is a crisis. Like it's, you know, there's something that's inevitable and it's also worrisome. I mean, central bank digital currencies are inevitable, but they are worrisome for what you just said. Because
Exactly.
if all of our money, I mean, look, let's be honest. If the government wanted to shut down our money through Chase Bank isn't going to fight the government. So,
Out.
yeah. So we already have that problem, that the government can shut off our money. Like Chase Bank is going to comply, just like Apple had to comply, just like all these corporations. If you want to play, they're going to comply. Now,
but if I wanted to buy a half of a sided cow from Longmeadow in Tennessee and I would pay him in Digibyte, guess what?
Yeah.
He could accept it and he could send me that cow.
Yeah.
That's where we start getting interesting.
Yeah.
When you start getting people who are getting educated and learning about alternate ecosystems and again, I'm not like pro fraud. I'm not one of those girls. I'm actually one of the most outspoken people in the community about fraud, to annoyingly so. But I also think that we can have freedom and also not celebrate fraud at the same freaking time.
Right. You know, I sort of had a hard time moving on from the image of half a cow being shipped to you. Like it was a very, it was just like,
I'll cook it up. What are you talking about?
Hey. Well, good. We all know that Longmeadow would accept Digibyte for a half a cow, by the way.
He would.
He should, and he would, and that's fantastic.
But that's the kind of cool thing, is we can start connecting people with a currency that they actually want to exchange in.
Okay. So
that's
what I wanted,
fascinating.
Absolutely. And so what I also, so let's take this a little bit further. And there are definitely Longmeadows out there, and there's a lot more people like him that love and accept Digibyte. But we obviously need more and more and more. Now we hear all about the the people in the middle of nowhere in the Middle East, and if you go there, they accept Bitcoin. You know, there are people. It's just getting more and more and more. Bitcoin is being accepted. It's legal tender. It's going to probably become legal tender in many more countries. So Bitcoin definitely has that mass adoption thing happening for it. Now there is trade-offs with Bitcoin mass adoption because it's slow and it's not immediately final. So when you transact, you don't even know if it's going through. It could take days really for you to be 100% sure that you're going to receive that. So there's a lot of problems. And then unfortunately, the solutions are more centralized. We know about Strike and all that stuff, Lightning and all that stuff. And so my question for you is how do you see, because as a currency, Digibyte is a superior product to Bitcoin. It is. It just is. It doesn't have the network effects, or it doesn't have the notoriety. So how do you see mass adoption happening for Digibyte?
Good question. And I like that you brought up Strike. One thing I think that people need to understand that a lot of people don't know is that because we came from the Bitcoin, like we're a derivative of Bitcoin, that means anybody who can take Bitcoin can very easily take Digibyte. It's like, from what I've heard from the developers, 20 minutes of code.
Right.
So if Bitcoin lays the foundation there, I think if we're strategic and we're professional and we're powerful to make the case to accept Digibyte, just like Litecoin has done for Litecoin, we can be more implemented. That's the thing. Like, it's not like a new road we have to pave. The road has actually already been paved. We just have to become like more strategic more organized and more focused on what roads we're trying to pave, or what roads we're trying to ride on that Bitcoin has already paved. So if somebody is like, oh, I take Bitcoin because I'm cool and I get it, then you can actually take Digibyte super easy. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because a lot of people will be like, well, my backend provider, let's use Humble, for example. My backend provider is Wire, and Wire doesn't take Litecoin. Wire doesn't take Digibyte. So then it comes down to the communities. It's like, how do we get them to support and accept it? And that's where it gets real curious, because there's no way to submit an application. So how does that adoption happen? So let's go back to the point of decentralization versus centralization, because if there are gatekeepers that are keeping us at bay because we can't even supply a link and give our information, give our legal opinions, give our community stats, give our whatever they need, if there's not even a door to open, that's freaking centralized, dude.
Yeah.
Who chooses to open that door? I want to know who chooses to open that door.
Well, it's frustrating.
Like Digibyte can be decentralized as hell.
Yeah, there's still gatekeepers.
But there's still gatekeepers that keep us from being part of the larger economic system that is global. So we have to start asking those questions in a serious way. And I mean, I see a lot of the community members, and they get mad. They're like, this isn't happening and that isn't happening. It's like, let's just roll it back for a minute. We need to ask ourselves, why is that not happening? Where is the point of failure here? And how can we make that not a point of failure for us anymore in a way that is like professional? Like you're gonna be like, F Wire. You think they want to list us now? No, they will not. Yeah,
that's true. The shame tactic I learned a long time ago.
That doesn't work. That does not work.
My debate. I've been through as a younger man my debate tactic of shaming my the person I'm talking to. It usually doesn't end with them being like, "Oh yeah, no, you know what? You're right.
You're right. Thank you for telling me to F off. You're right."
No, but it would be great if Wire and Humble, like Humble, for example, I imagine you've seen the videos that I've done on Humble, and it would be.
I think you've done a good balanced job on those, actually.
Thank you. Well, thank you. And
so, I would tell you if I did.
You know what? And I trust you. And I hope you would, and I hope you will.
I will.
Moving forward, I'm sure that there's a lot of people saying a lot of things about me right now, I imagine. And so, but real quick before we move on to stuff like that, is it would be cool if Humble, which seems to be moving in like the direction of Wire, and they're very reliant on third parties over there, and I think that Humble is trying to solve that, and that's
I get it. It's just what it is.
It's complicated. It's like you said earlier. It would be very easy for them to integrate Digi ID. We don't need to belabor that point, but I think that's an easy thing for them to do, and it would help their customers have a more secure login, and it would also be a nod to a community that is has been very supportive.
I think it's a good. I think it would be. I mean, I think it would be a good thing. I mean, that's my personal opinion, but I think there could be more.
And then Wire, and it would be cool if Wire. Sorry, yeah, exactly. I think that's good. So all right. Before we get into anything else, there's been a lot of news. There's just a lot happening with Digibyte.
So much.
Is there not? There's a lot.
I can't even. You're never gonna get your kids, buddy. They're gonna
I know, right? Oh my God, I know. What time is it? I do. Oh, geez, we have some time. Okay. So we got to talk about this stuff before I have to go pick up my children. All right. So this week there's been a lot of. Well, first we'll start with the light stuff. Is there? And this is a serious question. Has there ever been a Twitter poll that involved Digibyte that Digibyte did not win? Because I don't think I've ever seen that happen.
I don't think I've ever seen it happen either. Even in our low times.
Man, like the community comes out
there, but it's not even like I need to word this correctly. It's not even that we're so great. It's that so many communities are so fake. Like, so much is just bought. So
Right.
much is just not real.
Yeah.
You know, and like they might have a high market cap, or they might have a high price, and it's not actually accurate to the people behind it.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. Like, when people look at Digibyte, they're like, what is going on here? It's so illogical to the system, because we're not actually part of that system in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So our polls blow people's minds. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. This week was Coin Rabbit, I believe. I mean, it just, and so like that, like it was domination. And then
that's what we do.
That's what we do. That's what we do. That's what we do. I'm part of it. Yeah. And then there was also Digibyte joining the UTXO Alliance. What do you know about that? Will you tell it? What is the UTXO Alliance?
I know very little. I've been trying to there's just been so much. It's just hard to keep up.
Yeah.
I do know that, I like the idea of the UTXO Alliance, because I do think it's important as we're moving forward is to kind of align, not to compartmentalize people, but there are certain chains that have certain challenges set against them. Because they're UTXO, they're not pre-mined. ETH chains, they're pre-mined. There's kind of two schools of key up there.
Right.
You can print as much ETH as ETH tokens as you want, and you can literally be the you're the Federal Reserve of the blockchain. Right. Cool for you, man. And
you're talking about ERC-20. You're not talking about actual ETH. Yeah.
I'm talking about ERC-20 tokens, where it's you can print as much as you want. Do you want to print 1 million? Do you want to print 1 billion? You pick the number, and we'll just put a number there. Then the UTXO is that's mined. That's you don't. Yeah. You don't it's not printed. It's not fiat. It's you actually have to spend money to make that money.
Yeah, you have to put in energy. You have to energy and work.
And I will say, one of my least favorite things about UTXOs is the energy consumption. Yeah. But it's also one of the things that makes it scarce. So I think it's a chicken and an egg situation. And I mean, I'm always at an existential crisis with myself over this, because I'm promoting something that's, using, abusing the environment. And I'm not an anti-environmentalist, but I also think that we've got to get some control of our money before we can actually have real solutions.
I think that's true. And I think that obviously there are a lot of different solutions to mining and green energy and things like that. But I think in general, there is only going to be, in the long term, I think, but only a few of these proof of work blockchains are going to last. And my opinion and the position I've taken is that Digibyte is one of those. And so
I would agree. I would agree with that.
So we'll see how that goes. Let
me tell you why I agree with that. Is Digibyte has gone through more turmoil than any other project that I've seen. It's gone through turmoil within its own, within its own team. It's gone through turmoil where it's gone through, price deprivation, and people didn't leave. I mean, when I joined the awareness team, I think it was at 3 cents, and it went down to 0.0028 cents, and we all stayed.
Yeah.
Why did we stay?
It's crazy. It's one of the things that I instinctively found in this community, and in this is just there's just something very genuine about the Digibyte community. You kind of alluded to that with the polls. I think maybe some of these Kraken or whatever, there was a little bit of a dust up. Maybe they think that this is
no, this is not a fad.
No, this is
happening.
This comes out now. Look, as it stands right now, I've only been in this community for, people have only known who I am in this community for a short amount of time.
It feels like years.
It doesn't. Time. It's not that long, but I get it. And What I have noticed is what now I forgot what I was going to say. Damn it.
That's okay.
All right. Well, so, okay. Coin Rabbit
it's organic.
and
We're 100%
UTXO.
organic. That's
We're 100% organic. Here we are.
We're organic.
So Coin Rabbit and UTXO Alliance. So that's all the news that came out this week, right? So let's talk about there's nothing else. Nothing else, right, guys? No.
Pretty slow week. It's slow
week. Slow week. Before we talk about that,
let's
I'm
do
just gonna
it.
keep on saying before we talk about that. But do you have a take? I mean, this is old news right now. Nobody really wants to talk about this, but I will ask you, the whole like Josiah and Barry and Jared, like, do you have any words that you would like to share about all of that? I don't talk about that really on the ReCoop because I just don't really know what's real and what's not. And it's particularly,
I think it's like,
but
honestly, I for myself, I've tried to keep up with all of it. And it really comes down to, for me, if it hasn't executed in code, it doesn't really matter. Like,
right.
And I see Barry actually, working more with Jared and publicly trying to like get things worked out. The community has given to Barry a lot of money to help, progress Digibyte, whether it's in V8, ProgPow, RandomX, or whatever.
Right.
Barry's a very talented coder. I think that there's just a lot of history, a lot of drama, a lot of egos, a lot of emotion that like muddles the actual code that needs to happen or needs to not happen. So I think there's just been a lot of issues in that way, and it gets confused, and non-technical people like me can be emotionally driven into a certain direction based on a narrative because we're like, wait, who's saying is what? And that's where I think that like having outside auditors come in and look at the code, I think it's going to be a really important step for us moving forward.
Yeah.
Because I think there's so much emotion. There's so many people who feel like they're doing the right thing for Digibyte. And I'm not saying that they're lying. They truly do. But I also don't have the technical ability to tell them they're right or wrong. And so, for me personally, I tend to go with what the core maintainers and developers who have been with this project for literally years for zero money to try to bring it forward and try to keep it maintained. I will trust their voices over new voices until I hear an outside auditor tell me somebody else is wrong. So I would like to see more outside auditors brought in to look at code, to look at enhancements and ideas of those enhancements, and tell us without emotion from their professional perspective, what do they think is the right path, and have a more like collegial. I hate to use that word because I used to be a college educator, but a more like academic like perspective of why do you think this, and let's prove you right or wrong, and not have it just from like, this person or that person because the Twitter poll likes this person or that person. I think that's very, sophomoric, amateur for $1 billion blockchain. I think we need to start acting like $1 billion blockchain.
Right. You mentioned it, volunteer, and you want to trust those guys. And that brings back a point we were kind of talking about earlier. And my idea about mass adoption is these guys need to get paid. I don't know all the different developers.
100%.
They
100.
Well, and I don't know. I know Yoshi. I know Matthew. I know, and then there's obviously other developers that have worked on Digibyte. There's Jared, of course, and then there's Barry is another name that I know of. Developers that work on Digibyte. But in order for mass adoption, in order for Digibyte to do things like implement the Rosetta and all of the different things that we kind of all hear about, I talk about on my channel, like these guys need to get paid. right?
Oh, 100%. That is,
Yeah.
to me, I think that the developers not being full-time regularly paid is one of the
Yeah.
reasons why we're where we are right now.
And I absolutely agree with you. And so, okay, I mean, there we go. So that's something to work towards, isn't it? To
Oh,
getting
absolutely, 100%.
you're like,
I mean,
yeah.
you look at other projects that have 6,000 developers. They have 6,000 developers, full-time developers. These are private chains that have hired 6,000 developers. If we had 5 full-time developers, what would that mean for Digibyte? Like, how do we get there? You know,
Yeah.
and that's why, like, when DigiCorp like launched, you know, I've been kind of like sitting, I'm like waiting. But one of the things that they said was they were going to give money to Digibyte development, which
Yeah.
really, to me, I mean, I'm not a maximalist. I 100% am not. But I will spend like 99% of my time on Digibyte. You know why? Because that's the chain that I can actually help.
Yeah. And by the way, it seems like you do. And how exciting. I mean, how lucky Digibyte is to have somebody like you that isn't going to, you know, be holding it at 3 cents and then it goes to a fraction of a penny and doesn't leave.
I'm still here.
You're still here.
I am still here.
You're still here. And you know what? I mean, that's it. So, okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. You mentioned DigiCorp. So
let's do that.
Obviously, you know, this week has been, you know, there was an announcement that I'm going to host a show called the Metaverse Show, and that's going to be starting hopefully next month. And, you know, there's that. And there, you know, we're learning a lot about DigiCorp. So do you have any thoughts? Do you want to talk about that? The good news for us right now is that we're on an even playing field. Yesterday, they released the website and everybody now, you know, has learned a lot of the details. So I know just as much as everybody else at this point. Let's just be perfectly
good. Yeah. Make that clear.
So I know. Yeah. After yesterday, we all know the same stuff. So how are you feeling about this, or is there anything you would like to ask me, or, you know, this is our time.
When it comes to DigiCorp, I'll say this, you know, I looked at the team, you know, I worked with Rudy on the awareness team for a couple of years. I've, you know, talked with Jared and Yoshi, like I see their work, and, you know, definitely no shortage of love for the Digibyte blockchain and that. But that being said, you know, I see there's a couple points I want to make, and I've been making these publicly. Is one is I'm seeing with all these like partnerships with DigiCorp, I'm seeing a loose language of, you know, we're partnering with Digibyte, or the core members of Digibyte have started the DGMV ETH token. I just want to make sure that we're all real clear here. First of all, you cannot partner with Digibyte.
Yeah.
It is an open source, decentralized blockchain. It's like saying you've partnered with the internet. It's like saying you partnered with Bitcoin. At the minute you say you partnered with an open source, decentralized entity, it means it's no longer decentralized. Who chose that partnership? Let's be real clear there, because if you want to say you're partnering with them, then you don't understand what decentralization means. So let's all be real crystal clear there. And I don't want to be a bee about it, but I have said stuff publicly like, that's not what you mean. You might want to reword it. You're
talking about LCX, right?
I'm talking about several entities who said they partnered with Digibyte, or Digibyte's the official whatever. That's not physically possible if you understand what decentralization means. So again, I don't want to be a bee about it, but when we're trying to talk about a new paradigm, that language has to transfer over, and we've got to be critical at the very base level of when this is happening, because disinformation, once, especially if price rises, bingo, it's like a flame. It shoots out everywhere, and disinformation is impossible to stop. If it's attached to price, if they're like, well, the price is going up, so they must be partnered with Digibyte. What the frick does that even mean? You cannot partner with Digibyte. Let's all be crystal crystal clear on that.
No. Yeah. And I mean, I'm clear on that, but I think it's important that everybody else is clear that DigiCorp Labs and Digibyte are completely separate.
Exactly.
They're completely separate.
So you can partner with the foundation.
Well, you can
partner with the labs. You can partner with Jared, but Jared, the labs and the foundation are not Digibyte. If I thought Digibyte was any one of those three entities, not talking bad about any one of them, I would not be volunteering for the last 3.5 years for it, because I thought it was a community-driven, open source network.
Right.
That is very important. I'm not working for a company. I'm not working for Jared. I'm not working for a foundation. Right. I'm working for a community and an open source network that could provide a different currency.
Yeah,
that is community driven. The minute I think like something is centralized, I'm out.
You're out.
And so that's why I think that's really important to
that
make
people understand.
Yes.
Well, and then, from what I understand is DigiCorp Labs is trying to present themselves as that partner, that corporations and everybody else. We're like, hey, now you can partner with us, and we can bring with us the majestic qualities of Digibyte, right?
100%.
And that needs to be clear for everybody,
and
right?
That's perfect. And I love that. I love they're doing that.
If you have questions, I said this on Twitter, and people made jokes and be like, brace for questions. I mean, because and I get it. But from what I understand is that these questions are going to be answered, and they want to be answered. And so I have, there's going to be some really fun episodes early on the Metaverse show. And I will be looking to the community to give me the questions that they need answered, not just the ones that we want, not the price pump, not none of that crap. And I'm going to have some fun in a highly produced show talking about Digibyte. And if we can grow
it's like a dream job, dude.
Right. I mean, I don't know. It's not necessarily, I'm not there yet, but the fact that I'll have a cool looking platform to talk about DigiCorp Labs and Digibyte and ask questions and, not change. If somebody thinks that I've changed, like, I know that I know I'm new and people don't know me. But if you ask anybody in the history of knowing Cooper, is that the guy doesn't really change much.
I will say, Coop, I am like when you first came on the scene, I was your least favorite fan.
Yeah, you told me that.
Yeah, I probably told you that too many times.
No, but you definitely told me. Well, you didn't tell me until you changed your mind, so I appreciated that.
Yeah. And so, but you also have been one of the people who've sought out like information, and you've delivered it in a very mature and accurate and honest way. So I'm looking forward to your role here. I'm looking forward to your role in this new endeavor that you're going on with Mike, because I have a lot of respect for Mike Aldi too. So there's a lot of questions I have about, a lot that's going forward, but I feel good in the fact that you two are kind of joining forces and in delivering information, because I think that he has the technical skill with his background in Fox to bring us a level of professionalism we probably haven't seen yet in this community. And I'm looking forward to you, because I don't think you shy away from hard questions and honest answers. And so I want you to dig. I want you to give us the information that we're looking to find. And I wish you guys both the best of luck.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to work with Mike. And so, we're going to see how it goes. But, here we are. And I guess just to close it all out, unless you had anything else you wanted to.
Let's finish it.
Is that about it? I mean, look, I will say this, that answers will come, and there's going to be some really fun episodes in the beginning of the DigiMV.
I think we should be excited to learn. I think we shouldn't be discouraged to shut anything down before we have more knowledge, and we should take all the knowledge we can and learn and use it and become better with it. And I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Well, and you said, I was somebody that wanted to learn, and I've had conversations with you in the past, and you know, the Digibyte community in general has been so, man, just encouraging of me from the very beginning. You know,
Oh,
it was, I didn't really know, you know, look, I didn't know what the Digibyte community was going to do when I talked about Digibyte. It wasn't premeditated. I have my own story about how I came to Digibyte. And then I was talking about stocks a little bit. Like I just started the ReCoop and I was like, oh, you know what? I like Digibyte and cryptocurrency. I'm going to I'm going to do a video on Digibyte. And then I did a video on Digibyte and I was like, whoa, I just went from 120 views a video to look at this, people are watching. And that community came out. And then it was like Script Skynet being like, hey man, you want to come on?
Can we just take a moment?
Yeah.
Because Script's been kind of quiet in the community.
Yeah. What happened?
I think that, you know, I don't know what happens, but
okay.
I think that he has been one of those people who have been constant. You know, he's part of the awareness team. He's been one of those constant YouTube people who have been trying to, you know, keep the community energized even in the lowest times. He's hosted the spaces, and I just would like to take a moment to like publicly thank him.
Oh man.
Because, you know, he has done so much. He's done fundraising. I remember when we were accused of being bots by Brian Armstrong. And so he had a whole like group, like he had a whole like moment where he was like, everybody has to prove to Brian Armstrong we're not bots. And I had just started teaching again, and I was like out all day. I was exhausted. I came home and I looked through Twitter and I saw hundreds of people with videos, people who had never been public before, said, I'm not a bot. And I just I scrolled through and I was like, wow, what a moment, you know, what a cool moment that was started by him. And I think that, I think that like with all the glitz and all the news and all the whatever, like some people who have really given to this community at like a foundational level get overlooked. And I just want to make this moment that, you know, Script has gone through a lot and still maintain like a constant level of support for us when we didn't have a constant level of support. And I will say that from a personal place. Like there was times where I felt not supported. He was one of the few people who really made me feel supported and gave me strength. And he's not around right now. And I'm not exactly sure. There's different theories of why he's not, but I just want to make this moment to say thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you to Script and then for everything you just said. But for me on a personal level, he was one of the first people to reach out to me and be like, hey man, can you want to come on my show and, you know, talk? We'd love more people want to know about the ReCoop.
That's exactly how he brought people into the community. That's what he does. Exactly what he does.
And he was encouraging in the comments, and he was a helpful resource. And I mean, to the point, by the way, I was like, hey man, like, do you think I should talk about this coin? I was thinking about something else at Digibyte. He's like, oh, you should talk about Algo. He's like, I own Algo.
Exactly.
Look where so Script has been a fantastic, you know, resource and friend to the ReCoop. So, you know, shout out to him.
Huge.
And, you know, and everybody else. I mean, like,
wait. No, I've got a shout. I've got one specific shout out I have to do before we get off.
All right.
It's Investing Man.
Investing Man 79.
Yes.
Right?
Right. Because of Spaces, he was like, Laura, you're going to do this thing with Coop. You've got to mention me. Investing Man. Thank you. Thank you for being you.
Yeah.
Thank you for all of you who host those spaces for like 18 hours at a time.
And they're amazing. But you have Con, you have Gonzo,
Michael, like
you have all these guys. All these guys. Investing Man 79. He seems like a really positive, fun influence.
He is a character. I like him a lot. But I do want to say thank you for taking this pause. Like Script is something special in this community, and I think incredibly underappreciated. And this work is not easy.
Yeah, and it's thankless.
It's thankless. It's 100% thankless. And so I think this is an awesome opportunity to say, you know, thank you.
Yeah.
to Script. Thank you for, supporting all of us through this time when other people wouldn't support us.
Yeah.
For
sure.
for kind of leading you into things that you never would have been led to before. Like never discount the power of just like a small nudge in a direction. And he's been a much more powerful resource in this community than the people understand. And so I think we should all just kind of like do a hat nod to him. And
for sure. Well, I remember in the comment section, people, he would be like, hey, come on my show, or, and then somebody would comment with the one and only Script, there's a reverence for him. He's been around for a long time, and he clearly has made a lot of good calls. And so, hopefully he's doing well. And, obviously the Digibyte community, if he hasn't been around, I don't know. You're saying he hasn't, but
he's been kind of quiet, and people have been asking where he's going. But I mean, like, people have
life.
They have life. They get burnout. Who knows why people decide to take a break, public break. And I'm not one of those that like push people. I'm like, I just respect their choices. But I do want to take this moment to, if the break was taken because he felt underappreciated or felt like, the community didn't understand what he was giving, I understand what he gave. And I'm very appreciative of what he gave and what he's built. And
by the way, the Digibyte community is vast. There's those core group of guys, but then, there's also these other present, like Crypty Girl. There's so many like positive, awesome, like, energetic folks out there that love Digibyte and are getting the word out. And
they work so hard. They work so hard.
I know. And
but thank you for shutting her out too.
Yeah, she's cool. I mean, I don't know her very well, but I know her persona.
I know her well, and she is like a powerhouse that astounds me.
Just like she seems, huh?
Yep. Okay.
Well, LT, we did it. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope this was entertaining. I mean, it was longer than I was expecting, but
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I think it was my fault. I found myself like, I'm talking too much. Ask questions. Stop talking. But thank you so much. And we'll have you back on, and let me know. Give me some questions. Always give me questions, folks. I like questions, because I want to get in.
I like to ask questions, buddy. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, and have a great afternoon.
All right. You too. All right. Bye.
Bye.